So hi, Daniel. It will be great if you can just start off with by giving us a brief overview of NetAlly and what you do as a company.
Sure, yeah, no problem. So NetAlly, we're actually a fairly new company, but we're also a fairly old company. So the company launched as NetAlly in August of last year in 2019, but we've really been around the industry since 1993. We were originally part of Fluke Networks. And it was part of Fluke back in 1993 that the company launched a product called the Land Meter, which was at the time really the first handheld network analyzer on the market. At the time it was for IBM token ring networks, but soon after added Ethernet. So that's really where we got our start, was way back then. So we were part of Fluke Networks for a number of years. In 2015, the communications division that we were a part of in the larger company that we were a part of got sold off to NetScout. So we were a part of NetScout for a few years, for 4 years, but then sold off to a private owner, and now we're an independent company. And our focus is on handheld network test and network analysis software for Wi-Fi networks. It's kind of been our mission from day one, is providing tools to network technicians, network engineers, and network installers to test and verify and troubleshoot wired and wireless networks.
Great, thank you so much. Obviously, a big thing that's going on all over the world today is the COVID-19 pandemic. And as everyone in the world try to adapt to the impact of the pandemic, especially enterprises, they are now having to deal with fragmented networks due to their workforce having to adapt hybrid modes of working. So what advice would you give enterprises in order to ensure that they keep network visibility despite this or amid this new normal?
Yeah, well, there's kind of two dynamics. One is the work from home dynamic, and then the other is how to manage their remote sites when travel is probably not possible. So thinking about the workers from home, everyone is reliant, just as I am right now. I'm reliant on my local service provider and my local network here in my home to deliver connectivity to cloud-based and corporate resources. And so for users in that circumstance, for most of the users, their home networks provide adequate bandwidth for their needs. But in some cases, there may be issues with their home wireless network or their internet service provider. We have some of our customers in some cases that will actually ship out one of our handheld test tools to that work from home worker so that they can get some very detailed visibility of that worker's home network. Which brings me to point number two, the idea about remote sites, and just treating that work from home worker, pardon me, as one of those remote sites. Troubleshooting people who are remotely has always been an issue for network operations and for enterprise IT. And having enough visibility of what's going on in the local network, whether you have staff on site or not. In many cases, people may have IT support staff on site, but perhaps they're not skilled enough to manage and solve the kinds of problems that can occur in their local network. So that has frequently meant that some centralized experts have to travel to those remote sites in order to do some troubleshooting and analysis. We've tried to solve that problem through tools that enable remote collaboration. So rather than just being an independent, standalone piece of test equipment, our tools can be cloud connected. We have a cloud service called Link Live that not only serves as a repository for test results to be uploaded to the cloud so that they can have centralized visibility of that, but centralized network engineers can actually take control of a test unit remotely and do remote troubleshooting in that way. So just because we're confined to our home offices or we can't travel to the remote sites, there are still plenty of ways to get the right kind of visibility needed to solve problems for those remote workers.
Great, thank you so much for that, Dan. So yeah, obviously you had mentioned a few challenges when it comes to network visibility. But in terms of the Wi-Fi deployment itself, so what are the challenges or what are the primary mistakes that organizations often, take when it comes to deploying their Wi-Fi?
Right, right. Yeah, in many organizations, the dynamics are different depending on the size of the organization and the size of the site. For most larger commercial enterprises and government agencies, they typically will rely on some sort of installer or systems integrator for an initial design and installation. And hopefully that those installers, those designers are using the right kind of design tools and installation and validation tools. But even if they start with a good starting point, oftentimes there will be complaints about the performance of the network, or there's gaps in coverage, or not getting enough throughput. And a very common mistake would be to add more capacity. Now, and in doing so, we'll put up more access points. We'll increase the amount of connectivity available to our Wi-Fi customers or internal customers. But wireless is not like wired Ethernet. If an organization is having issues with bandwidth to the internet, for example, you can always buy a bigger pipe from your service provider. Well, we've got a 10 meg pipe, well, let's make it a gig pipe. We've got gig and we still have performance issues, well, let's get a 10 gig pipe. And I think the same mentality starts to creep into IT operations. They think, well, we're having performance problems, so let's add capacity. The problem with Wi-Fi is that as a shared media that is, effectively only one station can talk at a time on a channel, the more access points we add, we end up over provisioning that network, and we end up causing problems. One of the biggest factors that we see is indeed over provisioning, and that creates co-channel interference. It means we've got too many radios transmitting on the same channels. Another issue that we see around over provisioning is the excessive use of SSIDs, having different named networks in the Wi-Fi network. And the problem with that is that, so let's say your access point supports, most of them do, support multiple SSIDs, and we use lots of different Wi-Fi networks to segment our network. The problem is that every SSID needs to beacon, it needs to say, hey, I'm here, you can connect to me. The problem with that is the more SSIDs you have, the more your airtime is actually taken up by the beacons being sent out by those access points. In fact, it's not uncommon for us to find customers who have 20 to 30% of their airtime, which is available bandwidth, being taken up by just overhead of management of the Wi-Fi network. So I'd say that's one of the most common problems is over provisioning. Having too much coverage, and that leads to problems with performance. Another issue is really not effectively validating what's actually happening on your Wi-Fi network and not checking, or I guess validating is still a good term, what's happening with your wireless LAN controller. Most Wi-Fi networks operate with some sort of control system. And a lot of people put their trust in that without actually validating that the controller is actually working the way it's supposed to. So there's a couple of things there, ensuring that you've got the right level of infrastructure, that you're not over provisioning, and ensuring that you're validating what is really happening in that Wi-Fi network.
I think that's very interesting. I know there are some companies or some, I don't know, business or IT leaders who are guilty of, just setting it up and thinking that's it will work the way I want it to work.
Yeah, and then the other problem is that it changes. It's, when you install wires in a building, nothing really changes with that unless some human has gone and done something to it. But in Wi-Fi, again, because it broadcasts through the air, neighbor networks affect you. If someone makes a change in the office and the floor above you, that can affect your network. So yeah, it's absolutely important to regularly audit and test and ensure that you're maintaining the performance that your internal customers expect.
Yeah, great. So that being said, how can enterprises make, the process of Wi-Fi deployment and troubleshooting much simpler?
I think, and that's really where we try to step in and provide tools that provide the kind of visibility those customers need to understand what's happening on their Wi-Fi network. We also believe in simplicity, trying to simplify the complexities of network testing and validation. And one of the ways that we've done that is to come up with a new way to survey Wi-Fi networks. NetAlly has had products in our portfolio to do wireless network planning, installation, and validation for some time. Our Air Magnet software product line has been one of the leading products in the industry for that purpose for many, many years. But those products are very powerful. They're designed for systems integrators and Wi-Fi architects to design and validate those networks. As powerful products, they can be kind of complex. Certainly, just as with any product, they tend to get simplified or easier to use over time, but they still require a fair amount of expertise to use. So we've tried to create a solution that puts the power in the hands of local people to do Wi-Fi site surveys in a very simple method, using our handheld tools with basically just load a map onto the tool and touch the screen to take Wi-Fi survey samples. Those are uploaded to our cloud service, Link Live, to do heat mapping in the cloud. Very simple, very straightforward, incredibly fast. And it gives a way to visualize Wi-Fi networks for the purpose of troubleshooting and validating what's going on. Site surveying, is viewed as being a complex task, and as with many kinds of data, the ability to visualize what's happening leads to faster understanding. So that's been our goal with this Air Mapper capability, is give people the ability to easily, with a little handheld tool, walk around their facility, take samples. That information is instantly uploaded to our cloud service where they can see their Wi-Fi network in action and understand through those visualizations what the problems might be, like the over-provisioning we were talking about.
Great. I know you've touched on this already with your previous response, but if you can share some more insights into what differentiates NetAlly from your counterparts in the market, that will be great.
Yeah, I guess I have touched on it based on our philosophy of simplicity, visibility, and collaboration. We understand that our customers who fall into those two camps, either enterprise IT, network operations folks, or network installers, everyone's pressed for time. It's hard to keep up with technology. So anything we can do to simplify the approach to get the visibility they need to install and manage those networks and do that faster gives them more time back for their other jobs. I guess one area where I'd say we've differentiated ourselves is in the area of collaboration. As I was pointing out before, when we have remote sites, spread throughout the world, perhaps, it's difficult to see what's happening at those remote sites. And even particularly around site survey, when there's a project to install or troubleshoot and test a Wi-Fi network, frequently organizations have to collaborate and communicate with others. Systems integrator has to collaborate with their client. The site staff has to collaborate with their headquarters staff. Other solutions on the marketplace frequently have a way to do that, but it usually means purchasing additional licenses so that other individuals can have access to viewing and seeing the data that's been collected by that tool set. Now, if you've got a lot of people in your organization that need to share data, that can get fairly expensive. So one of the areas that we feel we've differentiated ourselves from others is making that collaboration effectively a free tool in the cloud, in our Link Live cloud service. And if I own one of our test tools. I can create an account in Link Live. I can invite other people to that account to see those test results, and we can collaborate remotely from anywhere in the world via that cloud service. So we always try to keep in mind those challenges that our customers have, not necessarily just with creating or getting the data out of their network they need to troubleshoot, but thinking about their overall workflow. What does it take to communicate and team up and solve a problem as a team?
Great. Thank you so much for that, Dan. And for my final question, if you can just share a little bit about what we can expect from you guys at Big C, and also what can we expect from NetAlly in general in the coming months?
Sure. Well, one of the things about becoming an independent company is we're effectively free to chart our own course with respect to our R&D development team and our product roadmap. And our engineers have been phenomenally productive over the last year with a pace of product introductions that we've never seen before in our company. And that's been enabled by a couple of things. One is being independent, able to chart our own course. Number two, having solutions that provide effectively an open platform for development. Our core product line has been moving to the Android operating system, and we're doing a lot of feature development in Link Live, our cloud service, and that's enabled us to make innovations and iterations of our products much faster than we ever could before. So what you can expect from NetAlly in the coming months is continued development on all of our product lines. We do have a aggressive roadmap for new products next year in 2021. So I'd say watch this space. We're always trying to keep up, just like our customers are trying to keep up with technology, we are too. And so you'll see new products and new technologies coming out of NetAlly.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. That's it from me today.
Thanks very much. Appreciate your time.